This video is just to explain a little bit for one of my subscribers. It was a request just to explain a little bit about a Hamon, which is a tempered edge, traditionally on a Japanese sword. So traditional Japanese swords are called Nihonto. This top sword here is over 300 years old. Could actually be over 400 years old. It's an Ichimonju, sorry, which is a pretty decent blade. It's what we call an old polish, so the details could be better to see, but you can still see the Hamon. So the Hamon is that cloudy white line just there. So the cutting edge, from the cutting edge to that white line, is harder steel because of the way it's tempered. The reason for that is to keep a sharp edge. So if the whole blade was tempered as hard as the edge, it'd snap easier. So the Japanese perfected how to maximize hard and tough. So tougher blades that don't snap, and hard keeps a sharp edge. So the two ways they've done that is they have, it's like a hot dog and a bun but with steel. So the hot dog inside is softer steel, core steel, and the outer jacket is the harder steel. And then to maximize it further, they cover the blade in clay except for the cutting edge, and then they heat it up, and then they plunge it into water, and because there's no clay on the cutting edge cools down quicker, and that line is like the border of hard and softer steel. So it's amazing that they perfected it to that level, and in doing so, on top of having lots of layers of steel hammered into it, when you have it polished up nicely, you can see the hudder. The hudder is the layers of steel. This is very tight hudder. Could do with a better polish, but you can sort of see a little bit of detail in the steel. The sword I've got below here was made in China. It's a Japanese style blade made in China by a smith called Simon Lee. So he folds his own steel and does a Hamon, and he does his own polish. You can see the layers in the steel a bit easier on this one, and you can see the Hamon. So I've got that sword facing the wrong direction because the other side is a little bit scratched up. It ended up with a little bit of rust on it. I won't get into how that happened. It was from a leaky roof a lot of years ago. I've had the sword over 10 years, or probably around 10 years. And anyway, it was when I had the sword out, it just happened to leak onto the sword, into the saya, which is the scabbard, and I managed to get most of the rust off, or all of the rust off, but I managed to save the sword from being too scratched in places, but unfortunately some of it is scratched. So anyway, you can see the difference with the Chinese made blade. It looks nice and everything, but it's a bit shinier, a bit more mirror polished. looks a little bit more Damascus, and the line there looks a bit more like it's like a spray paint line almost, compared to the Japanese where it's more crystallized, more beautiful. If anyone has any other questions to do with the Japanese swords, let me know. I have another sword made by this Chinese smith, Simon Lee. This one I used for tameshigiri, which is cutting targets, like I've cut a watermelon with it, and some tatami mats and pool noodles. It's a big, heavy, sharp blade, so that's held up well. My Japanese swords, I wouldn't use those to cut with, especially the antique swords. They're a part of history, and just out of respect for the maker and previous samurai that own the blades, I don't believe they should be used. Different if you get a modern made Japanese sword made in Japan, if it's made to be used. I do have a couple like that I haven't cut with yet, but I just use them for EA, which is the art of drawing the sword. So there's a lot more details to learn about Japanese swords. I just gave you very basic information about the Hamon. It's a never-ending pool of knowledge that you want to learn if you get into Japanese swords. Not just how to use them, but more so how to study the details and what goes into the different blades and the different schools and different makers and different eras. And I find it very interesting. It's something that takes a lifetime to learn about, and you still only scratch the surface. But to me, they are one of the greatest things ever created, is the Nihonto, Japanese sword. They're hand guards, they're art pieces themselves, all hand carved. Each part on a Japanese sword is made usually by different people, and they all have to do different apprenticeships. It takes years and years, and yeah, they don't cut corners. So I can give more details about that sort of thing in the future if people want more videos about Japanese swords. I can show a few others. I don't have many. Anyway, I hope that has enlightened my subscriber who requested this video. Sorry, I've forgotten your name. I should have looked it up before I did the video. But you know who you are, and yeah, I hope you got something out of this. Have a good week.